Hi everybody. Today on a new episode of the Yorick Frijters Show, we will talk with Anna Lindfors. She was on the podcast before, and today we will dive into the topic of femininity, how to surrender to the masculine, the importance of the polarity between femininity and masculinity, and many more topics. Let us know what you thought of the show, and please don't forget to turn on notifications on Spotify. It allows me to invite bigger and better guests. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hello, Anna. It's so nice to have you for the second time already on the podcast. The last time was a pleasure. It was more about sexuality and relationships in general. And like you said, at the end of it, we did not scratch the surface. First of all, how are you doing? What are you up to lately? I see a lot of traveling. I see a lot of nice pictures of other biohackers on your Instagram.
Yeah, I'm doing so well. Thanks for asking. I said before we were recording, but I'm in my ovulatory phase right now and I'm just enjoying it to the fullest, riding the wave and just feeling the rush of energy and inspiration and all of these things. And I think it's such a superpower to be a woman. I mean, that's how I feel right now. And then next week, I'm just like, cry a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm feeling super good. Thank you.
So happy to hear that. You were at... Was it a festival? Was it what was it exactly?
I mean, how to describe Mind Valley University? I would say, well, it's kind of like a 3-week festival that's also a conference, and then one of the most profound experiences of your life where you connect with like-minded individuals around the world, just sharing beautiful experiences and having space to do healing and elevating and growing together. So yeah. That pretty much sums it up. And then have lots of fun, as you could tell from the pictures. It's a lot of fun for all of us to come together once a year.
It looked very fun. Is it once a year? Was it your first time?
Yeah, it's once a year. This was my first time as a speaker. Last year I attended as a guest last minute, and it just opened up a whole new world.
Wow.
A whole new family, I would say.
I can imagine. I even saw Dave Asprey there as well, and Teemu.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce Teemu? His name?
Teemu.
Teemu.
He goes with both.
I have him on the podcast next Monday. So, all right, let's get to it. Last time we spoke more about sexuality in general, and one of the topics I found interesting, but we did not really dive into, was femininity. And of course, versus masculinity. But I want this podcast, at least this conversation, to be in service of the women that are listening. And how would you describe femininity in general?
Oh, first of all, I'm so excited for this topic, and I feel it in my body already. It's like, ooh, it's coming. But the way I like to explain feminine and masculinity is through this metaphor. So imagine a river. A river is a flowing force of nature, moving forwards, going backwards. You never really know, but it's powerful and it's there, and it's movement, it's flow. So that would be the feminine energy. There's a lot of creation power. There's a lot there. But imagine a river without its edges. It would flow all over. Like the river would not get anywhere. It would not go anywhere because it would just overflow where it is, because there wouldn't be any boundaries. There wouldn't be any direction, any leadership, any navigation. So that's where the masculine comes in to kind of, to support and bring stability into the femininity. And we all have these traits. And they vary according to different environments. Different people bring out different attributes in us. And especially for women in today's world, we operate very much from the masculine. So it's about how to get that feminine out there. And for that, we need safety. And I have a feeling that we'll kind of tap into that in today's podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I love that metaphor of the river and the edges of the river. I also use that metaphor when I'm talking about consciousness and thinking. It applies a bit to the same, but I love the soft flowing metaphor of the water and the edges, the strong edges.
Just to add, but the point is that a river can flow slowly, gently, slightly forward, or it can be a freaking storm. It can be a waterfall. It can be, powerful. And I think that's the power of feminine, because there is that flow.
I feel like we are experiencing a waterfall Anna today, aren't we?
It's definitely, yeah. It's that time of the month.
Well, what a timing. Okay, so we have the flowing river and we have the stronger edges. Is the flowing feminine, what you're saying, is that only contributed to a woman?
No, like I said, we all have masculine and feminine energy. It's not tied to our biology or our identity, but I would see it more of as a spectrum. It varies. So, but I would say that I guess the problem is that a lot of men struggle to embrace their feminine because there's so much stigma and shame around that. It's the same with women, because we see femininity as something weak, crying, emotions, or, we live in this world where being too kind is seen as a weakness because people will use you. We live in a very competitive world, and that's a very masculine world. So my answer is that we all have these innate traits or energy or whatever word you want to use for it, but the way we display them varies among individuals and different situations.
And when you say energy, I can imagine that some listeners think, is it something spiritual? Is it something I can touch? Or how does that exactly occur inside a human being?
That's a exciting question. How do I answer it? Well, if we look at individuals, if we look at humans, our life experiences have the meaning that we assign to them. So, for example, some people use the word energy. Some people use the word fate, religion, God, placebo effect. Gosh, there's so many different terms for it. I don't think we know the full answer. I know there are scientists studying the basically feminine and masculine energy on a cellular level and how it manifests there and how it's impacted, how our hormones impact that. But the way I understand it is having these different attributes that we associate with feminine and that we associate with masculine. And they come from women portraying some elements and men portraying some elements in a more default way, while we all portray them all to some degree.
Interesting. Yeah, I can imagine with what you're saying is when somebody walks in a room, you can feel their energy as well, right? I feel like it's a bit of the same. It can be some sort of experience when somebody walks into a room and you can feel it. So when we talk about femininity in a woman, how does a woman experience that in themselves? Or experiencing is maybe it's not the right word. How does a woman explore their femininity in themselves?
Oh, okay. That's a different question. I love that. Exploring femininity. I guess my default answer with everything is to pause, because we live in such a rushed society where we're busy and we're performing and we're doing this and that and, achieving validation from ourselves and each other. So the first step is to pause and just reflect on your life. Just sit down. Maybe this, next Sunday of this week, book an hour, sit down, stretch, move your body, reflect on, do a bit of sensual dance and just activate and see where the blocks are. This is a side story, but I want to share this because I feel like it fits this example. But one can say anonymously. So one client of mine found me through social media and then started with the sensual dance flow playlist. And they told me that at first, when they listened to it, it triggered them. It annoyed them. And that made them pause. Because at first, the easy thought is like, oh, what is Anna doing? What's this whole thing? Like, I'm not feeling sensual doing this. But they would continue doing it. And every day just kind of listen to different songs. And over time, being gentle and kind and doing that movement, they started loving the songs, deeply loving the songs that triggered them in the beginning. And it was because their feminine side was hidden away so deeply that it was so scary to let that come out. It was so scary to start moving your body in a sensual way. So that's why the first answer is to pause and reflect. And then the second part is to learn to understand your hormones and learn to understand your cycle, because that's a key component into understanding your body and understanding your mind and how you function as a woman. And that's the reason why, for example, today I'm full of energy and I could just, I could explode through this screen, go run a marathon, and just, it's just this vibrant energy because that's in my biology. And next week, you would get this more calm, more therapeutic Anna because of the shift in my hormones and understanding the shifts and then optimizing the shifts, balancing your hormones. Just what would be the good word to use in this? Because I don't want to say transforms your life, but I guess it transforms how you see yourself and how you see your environment. And then with this knowledge, you can optimize your life accordingly. And then the third component is intuition, because intuition is very feminine, and we've been deeply taught not to listen to our intuition, not to listen to our gut instinct, because as a society, we wanted to put the power into other people's hands. And I'm not saying don't listen to any professionals, don't listen to this, because they have a deep knowledge and expertise in the field that they operate in. But I just want to say that listen to your body. Learn to tune into your body and that feeling. If you go on a date with someone and you get the ick and you get like a really weird feeling, instead of thinking that it's probably just you making stuff up and, whatever it is, and diminishing that feeling, maybe take that in and reflect on that. Why is my body telling me this? And what is my body telling that my mind does not want to accept? And why is there this disconnection? And when you start understanding that, a whole new level of wisdom unlocks, because all of a sudden you're connected to your body. So then you can't be manipulated. You can't be controlled. You can't be scared or, feared into submission, because you are deeply in yourself and in your body. And I think that's the scary part, both for ourselves and for other people.
Interesting. I'm so curious what the source of that intuition is. I mean, it feels like it's always it's almost something magical that you can feel this person or this situation does not belong to me. Isn't that almost magical?
I mean, it is magical in many ways, and it can be spiritual in many ways. But really, if you look at it, if you want to rationalize it, it's electrical impulses that happen through your neurons in your body, in your cells, in response to something that you see or perceive or feel in your environment. And it's our survival mechanism. It's the primal side of us that we used. When you would hear a sound in nature, you're hunting or you're walking around and you hear a sound and you feel something weird. All of a sudden there's a silence. You stop and you pause. What's going on? What's happening here? But in today's society, there's so many different sounds and we hear all of these things and they don't communicate danger. But we still have these mechanisms to that we process the world through. And it's the dissonance between that's causing us these issues in connecting with each other.
Interesting. So when you talk about that river you talked about earlier, when
Mhm.
you compare that to that pausing and reflecting and taking care of your body, is like looking for the perfect way to let the river flow for yourself.
Hmm.
Can you do that all by yourself, or is it necessary to find a masculine counterpart?
Ooh, I love that question. I would say that the answer is yes and no, because we can all do that healing work within. I guess the question is more, do you want to do the healing work alone, or do you want to share that with other human beings? Do you want to share that with a professional? Do you want support in that? So I'm not saying that you need a partner to heal, or as a woman you need a man. That's not what I'm saying at all. We have different sexual preferences. We have different relationship dynamics that we want, and masculine feminine polarity is just one example of them. But like I said, we all have that masculine and feminine polarity within us. For example, I can be very masculine at some meetings, or things need to be done, and so on. And I love that side of me. I love that fire that comes through. And then I can be incredibly feminine, nurturing. And I like to practice feminine leadership to do that in projects. But also I can be very feminine in the sense that I want to be nurtured. I want to feel safe. I want to feel safe to surrender, because that's a different side of femininity that can come out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think what you're saying is that you can do, rationalize this, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can fix like 80% for yourself and can be healthy, and that's all fine. But is it like that 80% can be 100 if you can be with someone, or can you get to 100% as well when you're alone?
It's it That's a tricky question in many ways, because in a way, as humans, we're 100 and 0 at the same time all the time. We're whole this entire time, and then the entire act of healing is to reconnect with ourselves. But to say that someone can only fully heal with a partner is not something that I would fully agree. However, if you look at humans, and if you look at evolutionary psychology and how humans are, or how humans have survived, we have developed our social abilities and, these senses and intuition and energy because we've needed each other to survive. And that's why shame plays such a big role in our lives, because to be shamed and to be isolated equals death. So I guess I want to open this up for discussion between us, in the sense that there's a lot that we can do alone. And I don't want to say that you need someone to live a fulfilling and happy life. But trauma that occurs in relationships is often best healed in healing relationships. It doesn't need to be an intimate partner. It can be friendships, family, a professional. You can start therapy, you can start coaching processes to reflect on issues and pause and get that support. So I guess that would be my answer, that let's not, let's all strive to heal, but let's not become islands, isolated from one another. I love how we just accidentally end up using these metaphors. Let's be the
Very
not liver, river connected to the continent, and flow to each other.
sounds it's like a very good metaphor indeed. I always love metaphors related to nature. They feel very true in some way. So when as a woman, you can be in your feminine and in your masculine. How does that work in a friendship? How does that work when you choose friendship? Does that also plays a role?
I would say in many ways. There again, the dynamics can be slightly different because, well, depending on the friendship, but often friendships are considered platonic, so you don't have that sexual connection, that sexual polarity. But even in friendships, I have beautiful friendships with men. For example, just at Mind Valley, like how healing it is to be at the presence of a safe, masculine man. And it just, we're hugging each other, we're having so much fun. And it's clear that it's a friendship. But there still is that, my feminine presence and their masculine presence, and that can be very healing in many ways. So I would encourage people to also practice surrender in friendships and learn to discuss the boundaries with that, and learn to discuss our needs in our friendships and say, hey, I would really need a hug right now. Can I have a hug from you? Can I share a hug with you? Would you be okay with that? And then yes, and then you can share that. And when you communicate about it openly, you create safety, because then when you don't know and someone comes to you and like, hey, can I hug you? Especially as a woman, you can easily go into protection mode. It's like, oh no, are they hitting on me? Like, whatever is happening, do they want, is it sexual for that? And it's really easy to go into that mode. So then just communicating about things makes them so much easier and simpler. Shocking, I know.
Like you said in the previous episode. No, it was not in the episode. It was on stage. It was about how to make a woman orgasm or something. Just ask, or something like that.
I know. Just ask.
Communicating, it's underrated. But okay, so communicating. Let's dive more into that. When you are a woman in your feminine, who is responsible for the communication? And that might sound like
so as a feminine woman in terms of me communicating with other people, or like in a romantic relationship with a masculine man, or
in a relationship to a man.
Well, I am responsible for my part and in communicating what I feel, what I need, what I desire, and my partner is responsible for doing the same. I think that's just growth as a human being. Obviously, feminine and masculine energies can impact that, and I mean they've done studies that even our, with women, even our brain size changes throughout our cycle. So at some point it's easier to communicate and others not so much, but it's not that significant of a difference. I guess the challenge is that we live in a world where we have very little space for femininity, and we have very little space for different cycles and flow. So then when women are at the beginning of their menstrual cycle and their, hormones are rising and they're excited and everything's good, then it's easy to communicate because your desire is through the roof. When it's more difficult to communicate is the following weeks, when you are in your luteal phase and you don't feel that desire as much and you don't want to disappoint your partner. And because we don't have that understanding to the degree of our bodies, and our partners might not know. So then the fear of rejection and letting someone down comes in, and that's where it can be difficult. So it's a difficult topics that we find challenging and we often quiet about.
What I hear from your story is sometimes they ask for more direction. And is that something a woman can ask for? I mean, but is it considered okay to, if a woman asks for more direction, isn't that already something that went wrong if the man is not giving it? And can a man learn to do that?
Oh, I love this question. Before I answer, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Why do you think you have that fear?
A fear?
Or fear or that concern?
If I can learn that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if I think it is a fear, but no, I don't know. I don't know. I think I can deliver guidance, but I'm not sure if I can do it in any moment. And I think that is something I have to accept. It's not the right word, but that sometimes you're not always, wow, it's not a perfect sentence, that you're not always able to be the best guide in the moment, and to also be able to surrender at that exact moment, to say, at this moment, I don't know, so we have to figure it out together. What do you think about that?
I think that's partnership. And I think a lot of people mistake polarities in the sense that men always lead and women just surrender. And I just want to highlight that surrender is different to submission, because surrender can be a triggering word for a lot of people, especially women. It used to be a triggering word for me. Can you imagine? A few years back when I was going through the phase, but let's not go to that. The whole concept of understanding yourself and learning about yourself and learning what makes you feel feminine, what makes you feel sexual, what makes you feel masculine, what makes you feel confident, is to then be able to be with other people. And life is not linear. Life flows and goes in waves, and we need different levels of support based on our situation. And the way I see the polarities working is in that dynamic balance. So let's say a woman is in her luteal phase and she's not feeling well and she's feeling a bit bloated and tired and, not, ugly or whatever it is that she's going through. So then her partner can be there and understand that, okay, it's a phase that she's going through. I'm going to support her. I'm going to cuddle her. I'm going to ask her what she would want me to do to make her feel better, to help her feel better. And then as a man, you also have bad days. You had a bad day at work, or you feel like a failure, or something happened, or you don't feel good in your body today. Why could you not go to your partner and ask for support and say, hey, I'm having a really tough day, and it would really help me feel better if you could just hold me. If you could just hold me for a little bit, just hold me and hug me. Would you be okay with that? Could you do that? And then she can provide. She can nurture. But it all comes down to knowing yourself and knowing the dynamics. And I know a lot of men have this idea that in order to be a healthy masculine man, you always need to lead and you need to solve everything on your own. But that's not how I see it. That's not how most women see it. We want a partner. All of us, if we're going to share our lives with someone, we want a partner with whom we can be all sides of ourselves. The best, the most beautiful, glowing gala dinners, and then just running around like kids, naked at the summer house. That's what you want. And in order to have that, you need to be connected to all sides of you, regardless of the energy.
Interesting. And the reason why I stumbled when you asked me that question is, I think, partly because I thought I needed to provide an answer instantly. And I think that shows that what you were just saying, that even in small situations like this, you don't always have to have the answer. Yeah. So that was some vulnerability on my part. And well, thank you for having me. It was a nice polarity, this situation. Well, that brings me to the question, can you train your femininity?
Yes, 100%. If we focus more on men, how to train your femininity, I think it comes down to understanding where your masculinity comes from and understanding how society sees men. Because we live in a culture, and I do acknowledge this can be triggering to hear what I'm about to say, but we live in a culture where we want to empower everyone. We want to empower women. We want to empower people, in marginalized groups. I guess the challenge is that because there's so much history in suppression. So in our effort to overcome that, we've demonized masculinity because of toxic masculinity. So now a lot of men struggle with their identity because, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd love to hear your experience, but because they feel that being a man is not a good thing, being masculine is not a good thing, but also being feminine is not a good thing, and you're scared to embrace your emotions and the same, the same in a slightly different concept goes for women, because what we have done is, in our effort to empower women, instead of empowering femininity, we have created this ideal of what a woman is, and this boss babe, and you do it everything all on your own, and you don't need anyone, and you have your career, you take care of the kids, and you do all of this stuff. And women are burning out. Women are not healthy and happy. Because then women have hormonal imbalance. Testosterone levels have declined massively. Sperm count has declined massively in men. So what we're doing right now is not working based on, based on data, based on experiences of people. So to get back to the point is, how do you operate in this world as a man? How do you cultivate healthy masculinity and that leadership when you want to build that polarity with your partner? And again, that comes down to pausing, questioning those behavior models that you've learned, and getting in touch with your emotions. That's the scary part. And then getting in touch with your sexuality, because most men perceive their sexuality through their ability as a lover. It's like, what's pleasure like to you? What brings you pleasure? What are the things that scare you? What are the things that you don't enjoy, but you still do because you think your partner likes it, and then you feel validated? Those are deep, deep questions that require time to answer.
Yes, those are some really intimate questions as well for your partner, but also if you ask them to yourself. So when we talk about a relationship, how does a man actively support the feminine on a daily basis? Could you paint a picture in like five tips or tricks that we can do? You're laughing.
I'm laughing because you already know one answer.
Tell me.
Ask her, darling, how can I support you? I want you to know that I love you and I want to make you feel amazing. How can I do that? How can I do that today? I want to make you feel safe. How can I do that? But that requires, your partner to then know themselves and know what they need and do that exploration. The second part is leadership, healthy leadership. I want to use myself in this example,
please,
because I don't want to generalize women. But for example, to me, a massive turn on is a man who communicates directly, effectively, asks me out on a date, plans the date, comes and picks me up, and provides this experience for me. Because I work hard, I'm passionate about what I do. And for me to then let go of control, let go of all of those things, and just to feel safe, to surrender, being my feminine, that's a massive turn on for me. That activates my desire, and that makes me attracted to them. And then on top of that, you add intelligent conversation and flirting and all of those other aspects. But just to take that leadership. And it doesn't mean that you always need to plan the dates and you need to, provide everything for your woman. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I just want to be clear on that. But just to communicate to them in these ways that you deeply care about them and that you're willing to go over and beyond to make them feel happy and safe.
But you're also in a place that you allow that, right?
Mm.
I mean, I also notice, not dropping any names, and just in case if they're listening, but girlfriends of friends that demand a way of treatment, but not in a soft way, but more in a, no, we're going to do this, and no, I want this, and no, and no judgment to those women at all. But when you want that treatment of a guy, there has to be something to surrender, right? There has to be a counterpart.
You to earn it.
Exactly. So what would you say to those women that respond in such a way, which is not a judgment? Let me emphasize on that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think the reason why we have such little discussion on these themes is that they are so triggering. And it's easy, you light a match and boom, there's an explosion, because it's so innate to us. And there's a lot of trauma associated with this. So that's why I want to be considerate in how we discuss these topics. There are a couple of things that comes to this. First of all, it's, there are differences in women. Some women are more masculine and that's more natural to them and that's how they operate. It could be that they've diminished their needs for such a long time and, people pleasing and not saying what they want, not saying what they need. And now they're in a place that I want this. And that's, that could feel healthy for them. That could feel good. Another factor could be that they are in protection mode because you associate being masculine with being empowered and being powerful, and you want to act from that power. So then in order to enact that, then you behave in a way, you behave in a very masculine way and in a very direct way. I'm not the person to say where they're acting from or, how it's serving them. I'm simply here to communicate, and then people who are listening can take on whatever they want and reflect on in their lives and kind of reflect on where they're acting from.
That is indeed a very considerate answer. I love that about you.
Okay, can I add one more thing?
Yeah, please.
Because one concept that I really want to change is this perception that feminine is not powerful. Because feminine is so freaking powerful that we are afraid of it. And that's why it's been suppressed, aimed throughout century. Burning witches, all of those things, shaming women's pleasure, shaming women's sexuality, all of those things. Why have we done that? Why have we suppressed that embodied wisdom? Because an empowered feminine is so powerful, and it can be incredibly scary for both women and men. And that's why I want to highlight that feminine is not just all, pretty and flowers and flowy and, just take care of me. And, it's not that. It's real, it's raw. And divine feminine, I think that's where the juice is. When you find a partner with whom you can be your entire, the essence of who you are. You can be real, you can be raw, you can be sexual, you can be delicate. And then you can engage in a debate for hours and just, showcase all of those sides of who you are. And I think it's time for the world to start understanding being feminine as something that's powerful and understanding the benefits of feminine leadership in how that can help with collaboration and communication, within corporations and between them.
And why is it that is such a perspective that we have in these times about femininity, that it is something, like you just described? How does that? Why is that?
I mean, like it's a result of shaming and years, centuries of shaming and belittling. If you look at women were men's property. Women were seen as inferior to men because we were physically inferior. And then I guess it's a fear mongering. And I don't want to, demonize religion, but religion came in and it did a lot of damage to our connection with nature and to embodied wisdom, and especially, the witch hunts. So if you were a powerful woman, if you were too different from the crowd, then you were burned as a witch because you were a threat to society, you were a threat to religion. And being sexual was so deeply connected to witchcraft. And why is it that the society saw a sexual woman as a threat? There are lots of answers that could be said, but I'll leave it up to individuals to reflect on. Evolutionary psychology, making sure, we could go deep down the rabbit hole with this one, but I guess I'll leave it up to individuals listening to this and opening discussion on different levels regarding this.
Good point. I also feel like there's a shift going on, or maybe that's just my bubble. That could also be the case, that there's more acceptance for the feminine and the masculine. I feel like there's a shift going on, but that could be my bubble, that there's more and more acceptance for each of their roles in that polarity. Do you agree?
I mean, I would say there are a lot of shifts going on within individuals and collectively and in our society. It's interesting to see the direction of these shifts. But what I care about, what I deeply care about, is just opening space for individuals to embrace who they are. So giving women space to embrace their womanhood and embrace their femininity, and the immense power that comes with that, and the immense pleasure, because it's funny because people call me the sex biohacker. And yes, I love that, and I talk about sex, but the reason why I talk about sex is not about sex at all. Sex is such a small part of it. The reason why I talk about it is because it's such a repressed, shamed, restricted area of ourselves that so deeply impacts our lives. It impacts our relationships, how we show up in our career, it impacts our health, all of these factors. And feminine and masculine polarities happen to play a big role with that. And to empower women, let me rephrase this. How can you empower women or men without empowering them sexually?
To summarize what you spoke about, I find it very interesting that the collaboration within masculinity and femininity in yourself is a very important to explore at first, is what I take away from your story, so that you can have a better collaboration with the feminine or masculine outside of yourself. And if you facilitate the right circumstances within yourself, you can connect better with the outside world. And that goes way beyond sex or way beyond treating yourself with good food or anything else, but finding your own energy and finding your own best circumstances. And it still is something to me that I find very hard to grasp, because I can feel your femininity, and sometimes it feels different when I meet another woman or another man, for example. I find it so interesting that I totally experience it differently within each person, and it's so valuable.
That's because it is different.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then it just comes down to the dynamics.
Yeah, and it also says a lot about myself, of course. When I meet another person, it's not like, oh, he is different. No, I am different in relationship to another person, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Anna, we touched on femininity in yourself, the polarity between femininity and masculinity. I'd also like to touch on femininity in society. Career. You're a very good businesswoman. You're very successful in what you're doing. And how would you encourage women to use and utilize their femininity to become more entrepreneurial, or start a business, or cultivate whatever is flowing inside them?
I love that question. And to answer that, I mean, first of all, we need to, like we've spoken, we need to change our approach to femininity as a society. But through my own experience and through my discussions with women, there's still this innate conflict that we have, because a lot of women, especially in technology and engineering, in kind of traditionally masculine fields, they have told me that the moment you enter your university, you abandon your femininity and you become one of the guys. And that continues in your career, and especially when running a business. I mean, you need a lot of masculinity to run a business. And it's also something that I've needed to learn to balance the masculine and the feminine. But when you hit that sweet spot, it's anyway. But the point is that being a feminine woman, whether it's in the corporate world, whether you're an entrepreneur, is not an easy path. And there are a lot of challenges that you would not even consider. Should I say this as an example? I guess I will. There are a lot of... I'm hesitating. Okay, I will share, or I'll share this as an example, because as a feminine woman, you're easily put into a category where you're not seen for your professional abilities. And some of my advisors have told me that, you know, when you're raising a round or when you're having negotiations or whatever, that you should appear more masculine to be taken more seriously as a young professional woman, and especially because I'm a sexologist. So there's this additional challenge to it, I would say. But we have a saying that choose your battles. And I choose this battle. I choose to be feminine, and I choose the challenges that come with it to make space for myself and for other women, and to create change in this society for us to start celebrating womanhood and femininity. Because I am, you know, I am very feminine, and that's home to me. It changed my life when I learned to embrace femininity. And I want to be a nurturing and empathetic leader. I don't want to operate from a fear-based, performance-based mindset. I work hard. My teams work hard, incredibly hard. But you can do that from love. And I want to be the safe place that people can come to for support, for understanding, to be heard. Because my job as a leader, yes, lead by example, but truly my job as a leader is to help my people feel seen and perform at their best. Because truly they're the stars, and I support them shining. I also just realized another nature metaphor, but that's what I want more in this world. So I choose to go through the struggles of people wanting to date me instead of do business with me. I choose that battle because it's important to me to do that. And I do acknowledge that I'm very lucky in many ways, but it is because I work hard, and it is because I'm passionate. And I really, it's funny, even being at Mind Valley, we would discuss our mission and why we do the things we do, because I could live a lot easier life. I could be on the beach somewhere and, you know, do stuff, and I do that too. But my mission is to help this world heal and help as many people as I can, and that's why I do what I do.
Well, that speaks a lot of confidence as well when I hear that. It's like you explored your own femininity in such a way that you allowed yourself to stay in that femininity, be comfortable with it, and operate from that place. I think that's very inspiring for me as a man, but also for a lot of women, that you can truly empower yourself from a place of softness. I think that is very inspiring.
I love how you worded that. Power yourself from a place of softness, because that's what this world needs. It's not men and women against each other. It's not different, you know, political views. It's not different groups of people against each other. It's us together against the problems. And in that, we can't fight wars. We need to have softness, kindness, compassion, and care. And that's where the feminine wisdom comes in.
Definitely. And I think you show that to your audience, but also in our conversations. You practice what you preach. I highly appreciate that about you. And the best thing of this conversation, ladies and gentlemen, we have some very nice development. Anna has a very nice development going on that she's going to tell us about. There's not just one Anna going on.
Multiple. No, I'm just, we're developing an AI-based platform. And I'll give a kind of small backstory to this. But like I said, I want to help as many people as I can. And then, you know, as through individual work, consulting and coaching and therapy, I can only help so many. So this really started from a comment that I made this spring about how much I love helping people, but I wish I could help more people. And someone said as a joke, like, why don't you create an AI-based version of yourself? And I laughed, and I was like, ha, 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 funny. And then I thought about it, and it's actually pretty brilliant, because through this AI-based model, we've been able to create a platform where individuals get personalized support. And it's funny to say, but it's, you know, there's my voice, and then there will be other voices, because I'm not for everyone. But it's kind of trippy to listen to my own voice. I literally, I'm not kidding. I'm not sure if I should admit this, but I type in questions that I ask and then I get answers and I listen to them. It's really trippy to hear. There's a male sound as well. And it's really just to give people the opportunity to ask for help, shame-free, stigma-free. You can ask any questions about sex, sexuality, relationships, even health, and then embark on a personalized journey. So for example, if you had difficulty with orgasms, you get a plan tailored to you based on what you need on a daily basis, and you have your personal coach, fraction of the cost that it would cost otherwise. And that's what I love, because it's like, you know, people from the countryside of India to Manhattan, you will have the opportunity to improve your connection to yourself and to others. Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited to launch it. I can give a link that people listening to this can get an early access. It's free for now, so yeah.
Wow, please do. I think we are better off with more Anna in this world. And so I think this is a good way to start. Is there something else you'd like to share with the listener?
Well, first of all, thank you for listening through this. I would love to hear your feedback, your comments, what questions came out of this, what did you like, what did you dislike, was something triggering, you know, like all of these things I would love to hear. So just send me a message on Instagram at Heal with Anna. I'd love to continue the discussion there. And I guess the take-home message here, like with all of our podcasts or everything that we do, is take a moment to pause, connect with yourself, do a bit of sensual dance, and start enjoying life the way you want to.
I think that's a beautiful message and a perfect way to wrap this up. Anna, thank you so much for holding the space with me, for sharing your knowledge, and until we meet again.
Hopefully soon.